What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Saturday morning edition of the post-game recap. Hope you all had a great Friday night, as the Mariners had a great Friday night as they defeated the New York Mets 6-0 to keep pace with the Houston Astros and take the first game of a three-game set. As you all know, well, maybe not all of you know, but I was at Chase Field last night for the Phillies and Diamondbacks, so I did not get a chance to watch the Mariners game. So I've brought in a reinforcement. Jake from Raise the Trident will be joining me, and he will be doing the majority of the breakdown, tell us a little about the game, what he saw, and I'm going to trust his judgment because I have not watched the game outside of the highlights. So, Jake, appreciate you coming on, man, as always. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, and I'm glad I get to break down a win and a pretty, somewhat resounding one too. So it makes my job a lot easier.
I feel like we've had we've done a couple of these. Well, we did have the win against the Twins for the live stream. That was fun, but I think our last post game together was after the Angels series, if I'm not mistaken. So it was one of the games in the
I
Angels
think
series. It was kind
so.
of a
Yeah, one of the
dark
away
time this
ones.
season. Yeah. So we didn't play the Angels. That's always good. Before I dive any further, though, if you all can do me a favor, smash that like button. It helps out tremendously. Comment your thoughts on the game down below. I am now 48 subs away from 4,000. So if you guys can hit that subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. Also, there will be a link to Jake's channel, Raise the Trident. I highly suggest going over there and subbing to his channel as well. Just dropped a really cool video about Victor Robles and what he's done for the Mariners this year. So that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that video.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I put a lot of time into that one, and then of course, literally everyone on Twitter last night was like, "Oh, Victor Robles is washed. He's 2 for whatever." And I'm just like, the day I drop a video about his career, is everyone is like already out on him. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was funny because I was refreshing Twitter during the game, just trying to see, what was going on, and all I saw was like the Robles Linsanity run is over now and
Yeah,
everything. So still
perfect
has
timing.
good, right? It's definitely been a little bit of a slump for Victor, but every hitter goes through that. So he still had some good at bats, got the walk last night, I believe. So we'll go ahead and dive into this one. Like I said, Mariners win 6-0. Bryce Miller shuts out the Mets for six innings. Bullpen, Colin Snyder, Austin Voth, Trent Thornton get the job done. Offense with an early spark from Ryan Bliss. Had trouble adding on, but then finally Leo Rivas breaks through with the base hit. Cal Raleigh clears him up with a 2-run single, and the Mariners cruise to an easy win. What were your overall thoughts on the game last night?
Yeah, it was a good game at the end of the day. Like when you win 6-0, I'm not going to complain too much. The offense ended up doing its job towards the end. They were struggling for a while, even though they had the Bliss home run. Quintana did have, I think it was like a streak of 14 batters that he set down right after that home run. So they took a bit of a mid-game nap, but I think that hopefully helped them towards the end of the game to get some of those extra runs. And then it was just, we pitched pretty well. Obviously you shut them out. So and the Mets have been very hot. They've been one of the hotter teams this last month. I think at this point I saw something where they have like a 22-17 record or something in the last 2 months. So they've been playing good baseball. So you can't really discount handing them a shutout at all. It's a really talented lineup with some really good hitters like Alonso and Nimmo and some other guys that it's just they aren't it's not like you're facing the White Sox, right, where it's like there's just no one in that's a danger. So I thought they did really good across the board for the most part. I mean, there was a good 4 inning stretch where the offense was looking pretty bad again, but they kind of redeemed themselves later on. So yeah, good win. You always want to win the first one in those series to kind of get that mojo back. You only need to, get one of the next two to win the series. So that's what we like to see.
Yeah, I always say winning that first game of series feels so good because the goal is to win a series. I mean, listen, we love a sweep, but the goal is always to win 2 out of 3. If you win 2 out of 3 of every game, you're going to be in good shape for the season. So now you've got 2 games to get 1 game here. Obviously, listen, I'd love the Mariners to win both of them, but like you said, the Mets are a good team. I was actually surprised. I don't follow the National League as much. I just don't look at the standings as much. I didn't realize the Mets actually had a better record than the Mariners. For some reason, I thought they were hovering around 500, and they're actually they were 7 games over entering yesterday. Yeah, and to your point about the offense, you get the Bliss home run early, which is great to see. Any player that can be a spark, I think, down the stretch for the final month, we will take. Then the bats kind of went asleep, but they found a way to get six. And it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, it was an onslaught. Well, I won't say an onslaught, but the 2-run home run fell asleep, like you said, and then added runs. At the end of the day, though, and I know you're the same way. I'm not going to complain about putting 6 runs up in a game. So it doesn't matter where you get them in the game as long as you find a way to get them done. I know our buddy Mariner Sir on Twitter, and he sent the chart to me. Quintana stayed off the middle of the plate all night. He was touching the corners and really, kind of, I don't want to say a masterpiece necessarily, but it looked like a lot of that was maybe just more Quintana throwing the ball well than the Mariners hitters. Did you get that vibe from watching it at all?
A bit, yeah. Quintana was definitely dotting last night. He was keeping on that, on that what is it called, the shadow area,
Yeah.
really well, and especially it was kind of shades of the Chris Sale start earlier in the year where he was getting a good few inches off the outside part of the plate to righties with his slider, and he's a lefty, so when lefties are able to get off the plate to righties, especially a few inches, sometimes even more than that, a couple different times. He was putting the ball pretty consistently there. So that was certainly helping it neutralize a lot of the right-handed batting we have, and you normally would trot out against a lefty. So, even without the extra help from the umpire, he was just he really only had one big mistake the whole game, and that was the Bliss homer. He left that slider right over the plate, and Bliss was waiting on it and didn't miss it, which was really nice to see because we have been missing a lot. Like, that's the name of the game for this offense, is they've been missing cookies right in the middle of the
Yep.
plate. Those
Yep.
sweepers that are just staying right in the middle and they just don't hit them well, or they whiff them or whatever. So it was really nice to see someone get a hold of one. But yeah, it was kind of, I would say, shading towards one of those tip your cap type games,
Yeah.
which I hate that term, honestly. But I mean, I can't deny that, like, he was putting the ball right on those edges. He was doing a really good job of that. So, you got to give him some credit. He was very efficient in that way.
It's funny you bring up hating the tip the cap, because that was one of my running jokes last year in my post games was I am out of caps to tip at the end of the
Yeah.
year when random people are shutting them down. So,
Yeah.
but no, and listen, it sounds like the ump behind the home plate wasn't helping out a ton. And that's where it's tough facing, a veteran like Chris Sale. You mentioned the Braves game. He's going to take advantage of that. Quintana's been in this league for a long time. Veterans like that are going to recognize what the strike zone is, and they will take advantage of it. And they know where to pitch, where they've got the edges and everything like that. So that's kind of the vibe I got. And listen, it's always easier to say, like, to, I hate to use the term again, to tip your cap after the Mariners find a way to win. I'm more willing to do that than after they lose. And just as we drew it up, Ryan Bliss and Leo Rivas with the big hits yesterday. You kind of talked about the Bliss home run a little bit, but maybe your thoughts on Ryan Bliss here, because we're at that point in the year where you can kind of throw out the first 117 games. It's 42 games. Even guys have been struggling. If Mitch Garver can go on a big run at the end of the year, he will be remembered fondly in Seattle. Mitch Haniger, up and down year, but he's got those walk-off hits. And if the Mariners can make a run from that, it's going to kind of ease the pain of maybe a tough season. A guy like Ryan Bliss, do you think he can help here final month, maybe provide a little spark?
I certainly hope so, because, I mean, you have to realize that Jorge Polanco has his health issues. I mean, he's had them nagging for quite a while now. So if you can find that guy who can stay healthy and be relatively productive, would be really helpful in that second base spot. And I saw someone, or I don't remember who it was on Twitter, mention, like, well, you can start giving Polanco some DH days too, to keep him healthy down the stretch. And it certainly makes sense. I think you need to give Bliss more time before you make that decision to, like, start deploying that as a strategy. But it would certainly be very helpful, and especially like a guy like Rivas too, if he can get something going where, like, I mean, he's not going to be hitting, some monster home runs or anything, but do what he did last night. He found a hole in the infield and put it there. And he had a really good at bat too, leading up
Yeah.
to that hit, because he had seen that was the third time he had seen that changeup in that at bat, and he it was a very veteran thing to do, to realize, okay, he's going to throw me that again, and he's probably going to aim it down and away, so I'm going to poke it to the other side. Noticed, probably, I'm not in Rivas's head, but noticing the second baseman, playing more over towards the bag. So if you hit something to that right hand side, you have a high probability of something good going on, and that's exactly what happened. So it's going to take your bench guys and your role players to play well, especially in the absence of guys like J.P. Crawford. We've seen it a bit with Julio Rodriguez and Victor Robles, and you know. Even when JP comes back, obviously he hasn't been performing insane this year or anything. So you may have to rely on those guys. And that's really how it goes for teams who want to make a legit playoff push or a legit playoff run, is you can't just have your 9 guys that are out on the field and then everyone on the bench is like you have no confidence in whatsoever. You need to have some confidence that they can get the job done. So really hoping for Ryan Bliss. He's a very easy guy to root for.
Yes.
So I would love for him to be competitive and produce for us. I'm not ready to say that he will for sure or anything, because that was also the home run was his first at bat back from being called up again. So got to give it more time, but hopefully that's my answer, I guess. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you brought up a great point about that Rivas at bat. Just really a veteran at bat from a younger guy, and a huge 2 runs, because you get out of that, they had first and second, nobody out. You don't score there. Do I feel pretty good with Garcia Munoz that you're going to get the win? Yes, but 2-run leads are weird. A bloop and a blast, and this game is tied. And then, that happens, and then you don't have Garcia or Munoz tonight, possibly. So a huge little single there for Rivas that, maybe they would have won anyways, but you preserve Garcia and Munoz now for tonight. So you just set yourself up better for the rest of the series. So great veteran at bat. And Ryan Bliss, I agree 100%. We don't know how much he'll be able to contribute. Obviously, he has holes in his swing. We know he's going to have some strikeouts. It's just part of his game. But I've been impressed with the pop a little bit. I didn't expect that to be there as much. And he's got a couple home runs this year, and that one was hit really well. So if he can balance out the strikeouts with some doubles, use his speed, maybe get some triples and hit one out of the park occasionally, he is definitely someone that can help down the stretch for sure. Let's go to the pitching side, talk a little about Bryce Miller, 6 shutout innings. Again, didn't get to see it, but against the Mets lineup, and you mentioned some of the names, it's a solid lineup. So to hold them down for 6 shutout innings is impressive. How'd you think Bryce looked yesterday night?
Yeah, honestly, Bryce pitched his butt off. Like he pitched very well. Only gave up 3 hits. All of those were with 2 outs, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
It just felt like he would get 2 really quick outs, and he give up I think he gave up 2 doubles on 2 outs and 1 single. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but that was an interesting little trend. But really, like all of his pitches were working really well. He had 7 whiffs on his 4-seam, which is like really good for a 4-seam in one game. So that was working really well, and his breaking pitches were working great too. Especially his slider was really good. I think he had 2 whiffs on his slider, 3 on his splitter. So he was playing both of those off of each other really well. He got 6 called strikes on the sinker, which I thought was interesting.
It is.
And yeah, but he just generally got a lot of light contact on his breaking stuff. And he had a general tick up on his velocity last night. So yeah, I think kind of runs into the same narrative of Bryce Miller, just his home and away splits. He just likes pitching in Seattle, and we needed one of those games again. Like Wu the night before had 7 really good innings, so it's nice for Bryce to follow that up with 6 really good innings too. I think it was almost 7 if I remember right. Maybe I think he got taken out right after the 6th, but yeah, it was just a really good. Pitching performance from him, something that we like to see, and a good way to start off this series, because now you go into Logan Gilbert tomorrow, or well, I guess today, and yeah, that always, you're going to feel pretty good that if Miller's going to give you one good start, you got Gilbert up next. feeling pretty good that you're going to win this series. So, yeah. And then as far as I think the bullpen, Snyder got into a pretty rough jam. I think he had runners on first and second with
Mhm.
no outs. So I was,
Yeah.
and at that point we were still only had a 2-run lead. So I was nervous to put it lightly. But he got a really clutch double play, and yeah, his sweeper was nasty last night. He got 3 whiffs on 4 swings, so they could not put the bat on the ball on that. So yeah, really good stuff. And I didn't really note down much for Voth or Thornton because at that point they came in with 6 runs, and I was as much as my confidence may be draining a bit with the bullpen, I didn't think they were going to waste a 6-run lead, so I was feeling pretty good, and thankfully they didn't. So I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Some of these games, like I try to watch every inning, but if the Mariners are down 10-0 or up 10-0, I'm not gonna lie, I start to wander a little bit. I'm not paying as close
Yeah,
attention to,
yeah.
I'm more okay. Let's finish this up and let's get to bed and end this one. So I agree on that. It's funny you mentioned Bryce Miller's velocity being up a couple ticks. I want to get your thoughts on it too, because Mariner Sir and I talked about a little bit. This team seems to I hate just being generic or clichéing. Oh, they play down to competition, they play up to competition. But it seems like they sometimes look a little lifeless, like that Tiger series. Now, maybe
Yep.
that was just because they lost, and anytime you lose, you're going to look more lifeless than if you win. But then the Mets come into town, and still 2 games left. But I was saying I feel kind of confident about this series. This team seems to kind of play better on the weekend series with the more packed crowd. Do you think there's anything to that, or is it just kind of random circumstance with the losses and wins?
Well, I mean, I do want to point out that they were wearing the City Connects, and as someone who thinks the jerseys do matter, the City Connects are the magic point for our Friday
Yes.
home games. But yeah, I think there's a bit to it. Obviously, I mean, you're still averaging really good crowds in the weekdays, but you obviously are getting a lot more on the weekends, a lot more energy. And the Mets are, a pretty big matchup, certainly a lot bigger than the Tigers. So I think that's part of it too. And it's, like you said earlier, you would think that the Mets were 500, like they are coming into last night's game. They're leading the Braves in their
Yeah.
division. So it's like you wouldn't even think that was a possibility. So they've been playing good baseball. And yeah, I think there's definitely something to it. Now, for the rest of this, I guess the rest of this season, I'm hoping that, you have to win your weekday games too. So it's just I can't accept that, like, well, there's only, there's 15K less people in the stands, so the energy just wasn't there. It's like you're competing for a division title. Like the energy needs to be there, and if that's not enough to like give you the energy to try to win, then I don't know what is. But I think the other part of it too is the pitching understands that they are the backbone of this team and that they are the ones who are really, I mean, I would imagine at some point they're probably a bit, upset. I'll put it that lightly, with the offense because of the run support. And, we've had however many quality starts get either losses in the column for the pitchers just because they gave up, 3 runs and our offense only got 2 or 1. So I would imagine they feel a lot of pressure right now. The good thing is that so far it seems like they're taking that pressure really well and they're still pitching very well, especially your young guys like Wu and Miller, who last year at this time they were starting to kind
Yeah.
of fall off a little bit. It's really nice to see them still putting in good performances because I think they know they need to. Like they know that they have to keep pitching well if they want to win this division. So now it's just a matter of if the offense can keep this up, and if they can keep averaging 5 to 6 runs a game. I mean, you're going to win a lot of games down the stretch with this pitching staff the way it is. So yeah, I think there's certainly something to it, but they can't really use that as an excuse much longer. Like at some point you need to create your own energy during those weekdays. Again, even I don't care if it's the Angels coming back into town again, like you need to create that energy. You need to have that motivation to, win the first division title in 20 something years. Like, I don't know how that's not enough,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No, I think every point you made, I agree 100% with. I can certainly understand, having a little bit more energy for the Mets coming in. It's a team from New York, a team with a better record, weekend crowd. I get it. But like you said, we're 42 games left or whatever. I change the number every time I say it, but whatever games left in the season here.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's an AL West title on the line. It's not like the crowds were terrible for Detroit either. And I never, I want to be clear to anybody listening. I'm not implying that they're not trying in these other series either. It just does seem like the energy is a little bit less. And like you said, then you got to find a way to create your own a little bit. So hopefully they can find a way to do that. I agree with the pitching. Last year with Wu and Miller, I was advocating, hey, we need to add a starter at the deadline just to give these guys a little rest, even if it was Rich Hill was a guy I was advocating for last year. And I've talked about Rich Hill way more than I ever should on a podcast, but just someone to a veteran guy to come in, give those guys a little time off. Haven't felt they've really needed that this year. And in some ways, if Wu can stay healthy down the stretch, you could make a case him missing time could be a benefit the Mariners because he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear, hasn't pitched a lot of innings. So you can maybe kind of get Wu full go now down the stretch. So in kind of a reverse way, it might help them a little bit. And then the last point you made, oh yeah, and I forgot what it was because I was going to add something to it. And now I've just had a brain fart moment.
See, now
with the offense.
Yeah.
With the offense, saying they could keep scoring 5 or 6 runs. And sometimes I go back and forth on these post games. I'm angry that I'm happy. So, who knows? But now they've won 2 in a row. I can look back and go, listen, 2 of the losses were to Zach Wheeler, one of the best pitchers, maybe the Cy Young favorite in the NL, and Tariq Skubal, maybe the Cy Young favorite in the American League, possibly. So, and I'm not trying to make excuses. And I know, you wouldn't either with any of this, but you can look, and now they've won a couple in a row and go, well, 2 of those losses were to maybe 2 of the top 5 pitchers in baseball. So if they can keep it going, I forgot who they faced tonight. Sean Manaea, I think.
Yeah.
Who I have not looked at his Savant page or anything, so I could be wrong on this, but to me, kind of your typical middle back end rotation guy. Nothing wrong with Manaea. I think he's fine, but hopefully the Mariners can get 3 or 4 runs there. I'll feel pretty good about this offense.
Yeah, and I will say about Manaea, I haven't necessarily looked at his stats either, but I do know that it seems like he's been performing really well as of the last month. So, and he's been getting some big strikeout numbers. I think he's had multiple games recently of double-digit strikeouts. So, that was is something that worries me about tonight. But it helps that you have Gilbert on top of that, and I know Gilbert's been a bit rough recently. But I think this is a good time and a good game for him to kind of have one of those bounce back outings. So that's what I'm hoping to see from him tonight. And with Manaea, I don't really know necessarily what to expect either. I think kind of the game plan we had early on in the season, those first couple months, it felt like as those pitchers who we knew were good and we knew who we'd have a bit of a struggle against, the whole game plan was to just get them out as early as you could, though, just to get to those bullpen pieces. And with the Mets bullpen the way it is, the Mets bullpen is not good. I think you got to do that again, hopefully. And you didn't really do it last night. Quintana was very efficient. But hopefully you can do that with Manaea, even if you don't really get a whole lot off of him. If you can get to that bullpen in the 6th inning, 5th inning, you are probably going to be feeling pretty good about your chances as long as Gilbert doesn't have some big blow ups. So yeah, I would say tonight is a good potential night to get that series win, and I'd be feeling pretty good. Obviously, I want a series win. Don't really, if we don't get a sweep, whatever, but yeah, I think it's definitely possible, and it would be a nice little statement because, like I said, the Mets have been really hot, so it would be a nice series win for sure.
It'd be nice if Boston could beat Houston today as well. I thought they had him yesterday. I pulled up Manaea's Savant page. And listen, I would be clear, Savant is not everything. I don't go, oh, Savant page is blue. Manaea's a veteran. He's going to know how to pitch around things. So I will never just dismiss someone based on a Savant page, but it looks very average. Extension is really good. And he is 65th percentile on strikeouts. So, I mean, he can do some things. Wouldn't shock me if the Mariners have some swing and miss tonight. The rest of it, though, pretty mediocre across the board. Everything's kind of in that 40 to 50 percentile range. So not really terrible at anything. Outside, it doesn't get ground balls. It doesn't have great fastball velocity, but that, if he's getting outs, kind of doesn't matter a little bit. But we'll see. Should be a guy the Mariners kind of your point, like I'd expect them to get a few runs here. It would not be someone I'd want to see this team be shut down. I never want to see him shut down, but it would not be an acceptable shutout. But I'm with you. I think Logan Gilbert bounces back tonight. I just have a good feeling. Kind of due for a W. I know that doesn't really matter, but I feel like he is, due to get a win here. Now, are they going to bust out the teal jerseys tonight? Because that's going to be, I know you're the jersey guy, so teal has not been their color this year.
Yeah, I hope not. I guess I hope it's probably like the home whites or something, or, it sucks that we don't get the steelheads this year at all. But yeah, I think I've seen the sentiment recently of like, we need to start wearing the City Connects more often. And there's teams who don't have just a specific night that they wear the City Connects. Like they wear it usually multiple times in a homestand. I think last time we played the Angels, they wore it like 3 out of the 4 games. So you can do it, and I think the City Connects are pretty dope. So I would be fine with it. I guess last piece about Manaea, like specifically his last 2 starts have been really good. July 30th against Minnesota, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, 11 Ks, and that's against Minnesota. And then August 5th against the Cardinals, 7 innings pitched, 6 hits, 10 Ks. So he's in good form right now. Hopefully we can knock him off that a bit. Because he has spurts where he has some blow up starts. So hopefully we can do that tonight. That's my hope for today.
Yep. Yeah, crafty veteran, that's what you're going to get from guys like that. Unfortunately, as they get, the stuff probably isn't as great as it used to be, so you are susceptible to some of those blowups. But another point, you mentioned those 2 outings that struck me, obviously the shutouts with the double-digit strikeouts, but 7 innings. And with the Mets bullpen struggling a little bit, like you said, you want to try and get Manaea out of there after 4 or 5 and get into that bullpen a little bit because you allow him to go 7. I don't know the Mets bullpen as well. I know Diaz is still there. Stanek is there. I don't know if Stanek's been pitching high leverage or not. I'm assuming. I know he had a tough first
so far.
No. And I'm rooting for Ryan Stanek. Seems like a really cool dude. So outside of this weekend, I'm rooting for Ryan Stanek. So
exactly.
Definitely want to try to get Manaea out of there early, and then you feel good. Then Sunday Night Baseball returns to Seattle tomorrow. First time since 2004 that they have been at a home game on Sunday Night Baseball, which is just insane to me, especially a beautiful city like Seattle, West Coast baseball. I know they haven't had great teams, but I feel like they could have been on at least 1 or 2 of those Sunday Night Baseball games. Any other thoughts you have on the game last night or the rest of the series?
No, just get that series win and start stacking them up on top of each other. I think that's the name of the game at this point. Every game matters. Every win matters. I'm done with being like, well, that was just one of those games, whatever, or that's just one of those series. It's going to happen every year. Like, you are in go time now. You need to win more than the Astros, and you need to make it as tough for them as possible to beat you. Because, I think at the end of the year, it would be really nice to win this division, and then finally the AL West for the first time in 20 something years runs through Seattle instead of Houston. I think that would feel pretty good. So, that's where I'm at is no more excuses, no more, oh, we just didn't have the energy, blah, blah, blah. You need the energy, get these wins, start stacking them up on top of each other, and you have a really good shot.
Well said. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you can sit there and if we sit there and go, well, it was a tough series, and listen, we certainly both understand they're not going to go 40 whatever and the rest of the year, but Houston's going to win those games. So you can't just go, well, it was a tough one. We just, didn't want to go to Munoz in the 9th inning because of this. Like, no, it's all hands on deck. Listen, if guys are hurt, they're hurt. I'm not trying to push someone past the brink at any point here, but I'm at all hands on deck right now. Cal might have to catch all 40. It's one of those things where everyone's got to go that little bit extra step the rest of the way. And I'm with you. I don't think there would be a better feeling than watching the Mariners clinch an AL West title. I was a freshman in I had just started high school the last time the Mariners won the American League West. So now I have
it was 2001, right?
Yeah, 2001. So it would have been September of 01.
I was 3. So
oh my God.
Yeah, there you go.
So you don't even have a memory of it or anything. I do remember it, but I was into different things. I was into baseball, but starting high school, your life's going all over the place a little bit. Right. So I wasn't as dialed in as I am now. So it's just crazy. you're 3 now. You're an adult with a family. I've got it's just crazy
Yeah.
how long it's been since we've seen that. Half the people that watch these videos probably weren't even born yet. So that's all
Yeah.
we've got for you guys. Great win last night for the Mariners. Like I said, always winning, and Jake reiterated it too. Always winning that first game feels great because now you're in really good position to get this series win. Hopefully, nice thing is Houston plays early today. Hopefully, we can enjoy them dropping a game to Boston, then know that first place is ours for the taking tonight. Have a great night, everybody. Great day. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe, comment down below. Go over to Raise the Trident, hit subscribe over there. Link will be in the description down below. Highly encourage all of you to do that as well. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.